Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. It's yet another Friday, the eve of Deepavali. So I thought I'd go Indian today. And so we're here to wish everybody a happy Deepavali if you're celebrating tomorrow. And for this occasion, I have got someone very special to my heart, very dear to me. I've known her for the past 10 years or more. I met her when she was a teenager in a wheelchair, very quiet, very reserved, and went up and spoke to her and became friends with her. And I found that behind that shy demeanor of this girl in a wheelchair was a terrific spirit, an awesome mind, and a person with immense courage and curiosity. I have with me here today Aveena Devi. Aveena Devi has been in a wheelchair almost from the time of her birth, and yet she has triumphed over her condition. She has spina bifida, and she has triumphed over her condition over the past so many years to become a published author. She's written a book. She's a mixed media artist, very colorful paintings that reflect her extraordinary personality. She's a culinary graduate. Yep, she went to culinary school. She's worked as a chef at a family restaurant. She's a model with Dawn Management. She champions the rights of the differently abled community. She is now an up-and-coming motivational speaker, and even as we speak, she is going through fresh health challenges. And yet here she is, looking extremely beautiful, very composed. Here she is today, and I'm very, very happy to have you with me today on the Sheila Exchange, speaking about what it's like to be different but able. Welcome, Aveena.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. Very excited to be on the show.
You know, I always have a principle that the people that I invite to come on board this segment are always people with a really special story to tell. People who are special in some way or other, right? Who've pivoted in their lives, who haven't accepted the norm or whatever the world says they should be doing, but have just gone and done something else. And your real testimony to that, Aveena, and the fact that you've lived life in a wheelchair, but you've done so much more than a lot of people who, have ability to walk and run around and lead their lives. So before we talk about that aspect of it, maybe you could tell us about your congenital condition that confine you to life in a wheelchair. Maybe you can tell us about spina bifida for those who don't know much. Yeah.
Sure. Basically, I have a spinal condition from birth, meaning from the day I was born. I was diagnosed with a condition called spina bifida myelomeningocele. And in the most easiest term or explanation is that a part of my lowest spine wasn't completely formed. Therefore, the necessary nerves, the necessary muscles and tissues that we need in our spine, it was not formed in my spine. So it being the lowest part of my spine, it affected my limbs, my bladder, my feet, my sensation and strength. And therefore, since I can remember, I've been confined into a wheelchair.
I see. So what was your life growing up, Aveena? I mean, you looked at other children running around, climbing, playing, and you were in a wheelchair. So what were the thoughts that went through you growing up as a child, as a teenager, as a young woman?
To be honest with you, growing up for me at that point, at a adolescent age or teenage, at least an adolescent age at least, I didn't seem like my life was much different than my siblings, only because my own immediate family didn't make me feel that. I just felt as normal as my siblings and my parents. I think it's only when I entered teenagehood, when I started going to school, I started, exposing myself into the public, is when I actually felt that I was different I was moving around differently, and that not everybody moves around on a wheelchair. So when that realization came in, it was definitely a lot of uncertainty, a lot of not knowing whether I fit in. Because as a teenager, a lot of us want to fit in into the famous or the famous groups or the popular groups, if I may say. And that is what I was very difficult for me. But I think what made it easier for me to walk through that was communicating my concerns or my troubles to my parents. And I have the best of the best parents. They are completely open-minded. They are always up to listening to anything I have to say. It's always a family discussion in helping me out. So they took me step by step. And being parents, yes, even though I was their first differently able child, and it was very new to them, we honestly took it as a day-to-day lesson for us to learn what I can and cannot do. So it, from feeling the harshness, I started learning how to educate myself about my differences, about my capabilities, about um, how I able to reach out to people without they feeling scared. So it was a lot of uncertainties from there, learning. I think it was just a lot of learning even till now. Being at the age of 26, I'm still learning on how I can better myself. My parents are very much still learning about me. So I think it was easy in that sense that I was able to have that comfort level with my family, and go back to them no matter how hard life got for me.
So it's interesting, right? As a child, you're growing up in the family, you're a bit different, but you don't
Mhm.
kind of realize it because you're in the comfort of your family and there's so much of love and,
Absolutely, yeah.
wanting to nurture you. It's when you go
Yeah,
out into the world and face other people and
yeah,
they look at you differently that you begin to look at yourself differently, right?
exactly.
Mm,
Honestly, that's when I started realizing that I'm not in the norm. I
mm.
don't fit in that well, and I get looked at oddly. I get odd questions by random strangers who come up to me during when I go out for lunch with my family. So that was new, and even till now, I'm still getting used to it. Many people out there are still not aware on how to approach someone like me. So yeah, it is
Yeah,
definitely.
I kind of realized that, right? And for me also it's taught me a lot that, and I've spoken to people who are differently able or sometimes
Mhm.
people who are ill with particular illnesses. And a lot of times people just kind of look through you and they want to avoid talking about it. Now, as a differently able person, Avina, would you
Uh-huh.
rather, if you met a stranger at a party or at an event or just anywhere, would you rather
Mhm.
they come right out and ask you, like, hey, how come you're in a wheelchair, rather than just no, not make eye contact or skirt around it and talk about the weather and how pretty the flowers are and all that? Oh, what do you think? I mean,
I've
tell
actually
us. We need to know, Amina.
that's true. That's a nice way of putting it. Thanks to my father, I've actually been a more of a straightforward person. So I've actually preferred people asking me straightforwardly as to um what happened to me. But then again, there comes the way that people ask me that I had to also go through. So, like for example, how I asked is, "What happened to you? Why are you on the wheelchair?" That is usually the appropriate way to ask someone who doesn't look like you. But unfortunately, what I hated when I was growing up is absolute stranger coming up to me and saying, "So what is wrong with you?"
Oh dear. Mm,
And that question repeated in all my adolescent and teenagehood. And at one point, I asked myself that question: What
mm,
is wrong with me? Why is it me being on a wheelchair or having vitiligo is wrong? Why is that
mm,
wrong? So again, just venting it out to my mom and my sister being the woman who's been out there more, who comes back to me and teaches me the hard world out there. She basically told me that people will only behave the only way they know, the only way they are aware of. So from being really angry and how you say cold, I just started educating them. So I started correcting people. To be honest, I would say, well, so whoever the age may be, I'll say actually there is nothing wrong with me, but the reason why I'm on wheelchair is this.
Amazing. I like that. And I think that's a lesson to everyone who's listening. Don't go and ask someone in a wheelchair or who's using a walking frame or a walking stick or dark glasses what's wrong with you. Just go and ask them, hey, why are you in a wheelchair? Or, why
Yeah,
are you,
absolutely.
yeah, what happened? Something like that would be better than to just go and ask someone what's wrong with you. And for the benefit of everyone listening, nothing wrong with Aveena. She's as sharp as nails, I can tell you. So go and ask her that question next time at your own peril, okay? All right. So okay, so did you also resent it sometimes? I'm sure there are a lot of people who kind of like look at you and then look away and then they'll ask your parents what's wrong with her.
Oh,
Without
absolutely. Oh my God. Oh yes. Oh, that's my favorite.
So what do your parents and you do?
um,
Like I said,
my
you got
parents
no
actually,
mouth and no mind, right?
well, personally, my parents, and they're very vocal, they're very out there. So they would turn and say, you can ask Aveena.
Good.
My parents will never, yes, they're protective. Yes, for sure, they're protective, but they have taught me to look after myself. They have taught me to carry myself. They've taught me to be confident and to never shy away because I'm different. So in that sense, my mom would be like, my mom is the queen of wittiness.
I know.
So she'll be like, she can talk, so we can ask her.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to do that with you one day,
Happen.
Aveena. Go,
That
go have
usually happens. Sorry. Go ahead.
what we're saying, yeah. Carry on.
That usually happens with my siblings a lot more. They will ask my elder siblings, so what is your younger one doing? Are you looking after her? And my sister will go, I think she looks after herself pretty well.
Do you still get this people,
Yeah.
sort of talking above your head, like as if you are not there or like you
No,
don't
absolutely.
understand?
At a
Seriously?
restaurant, when I'm ordering food, if I'm with other people, they ask other people the questions, even if I'm ordering or if I'm paying at the cash counter and someone is beside me, rather than trying to reach out to my hand, because usually cash counters are pretty high, they look at the second person that's beside me. So that still happens, and honestly, that does irritate me. But once in a while, I do voice it out.
That's good. I
Yeah.
think it's good. I think you should call people out. As you said, people sometimes don't know how to, but that's no excuse. I think you should just learn. I think at the very least, you should ask the other person, like, what do I say? How can you teach me how to sort of communicate with me? Or can you teach me about whatever that you have so that I can learn to be more understanding? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. So, Aveena, when did you first begin to see all these possibilities open to you?
Mm. Uh, Actually, it's when I was taught to write my first book. Before that, like you said perfectly, I was a lot more reserved. I did not know how to voice out my opinions. I had no idea whether what I said would be right or wrong. I was very much shadowing my sister around, and I would follow her footsteps and behave how exactly she would behave, not knowing how to behave in my own way. So writing
Did
my
that
first,
drive her nuts?
oh,
Did
that
that
drove
drive?
her nuts. That drove her nuts. I would give her a trophy for surviving with me that long. But yeah, having said, when I wrote my first book, What's Your Problem? I was mentored by you and the whole Rhythm House. And you guys taught me how to carry myself, how to be able to express through words, of course, which was my biggest therapy at that time, was to express myself in words and finding the worthiness in me. I think the second I found that, I felt the need to be able to speak more, to show up more, to dress up more. I think that was my first stepping stone.
Great. Yeah, I remember that book. What's your problem? It was amazing. Like, it's like everyone's there going on, whinging about their life, and you're there, like, just sort of going through in a very stoic way and like, what's your problem, right? I love the title of that book and that whole journey, right? And
Yes.
you actually were asked to give talks, and I remember you giving interviews on
Yeah.
radio and being
Yes.
written up in the media, and actually the National Library selected that as one of their books as well,
Yes.
right?
Indeed. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's are those copies of those books, the books, still available?
Not at bookstores, but personally through me, and yeah, that is still
Okay.
available.
And if you're interested in that book, you can contact Aveena through Facebook and get copies of the book. So what was the book about for those who
Okay.
are interested? Yeah, I know, but the
Yeah.
listener.
The book was mainly about my life from birth up to I was 17 when I published the book. It was basically my humorous way in putting on how life has been for me from the medical point of view, from a family point of view, teenagehood, teenage difficulties, school difficulties, um, learning to be comfortable in my own skin, basically. And yeah, basically telling people that, or at least in my own way, the story tells that everybody in this world is born differently and should end up learning how to bring that out.
Great. Hey, want to
Yeah.
do a sequel or not?
I also thinking of it, oddly enough,
Yeah, it's
couple of
been 10
months ago.
years. It's time for another one. Every 10 years, you should write a book. The 10-year journeys. Right. You're also an accomplished artist. How did you
Mhm.
get into art, and have you sold your art? And also you teach art. Yeah. So tell me
Yes,
about
I
that.
do. I started art, or started doing art at least at the age of 10. At that point, my hospital life had taken a step back, so I had more time at home. But unfortunately, at that point, it was the biggest challenge was to go to school, because all government schools did not have the accessibilities, or neither want to accommodate a differently able person like me. So after a few years of my parents really going out there and fighting, and to get it, they realized that it's better for me to study from home. So my
Mm,
mom was my first tutor. So with learning, from learning maths and all other subjects, art was one of it.
mm,
So just by going through her garden and learning how to paint on leaves, and she's a pretty good artist herself. So from her, she would spend hours with me in the evening, teaching me how to do simple art block drawings, uh, finger painting, just basically learning motor skills and color combinations. So I think from there, I realized that it was helping me to express my frustrations from within. And when I started creating more, um, my mom and my parents saw the potential in me and enrolled me for art classes. And it would be like a weekly classes, and every time I'd bring back something like a wooden frame or a glass painting. And I think for me, what um, sparked the interest was the excitement I saw when I gave a, a gift done by me to my dad for his birthday, my sister. I think that was what sparked my interest and my love for art. I felt like finally, even though I'm not able to go to school, like my siblings, I felt worthy in creating something through art. So it was just basic. Initially, it was just basic folk art, painting flowers and landscapes, and then from there, 10 years passed, 5 years passed, sorry, and I fell into mixed media, which is basically doing paintings, playing with multiple items. And Mixed media for me is like bringing out the layers that I can't speak through words, and I put it into paintings. So that's how. So I've been painting since I was 10, and that's become my career now. Like you said
Mm.
earlier, um, because I honestly don't know how to do anything better than painting, and it allows me at the same time to educate the people out there, because when they see me at bazaars, um, initially when I started selling pen paintings at bazaars about 3 years ago, people were more curious about me. They'll come up to my booth, they'll ask me about my condition, about my skin, why do I have all these white patches around me, and then they'll go forward with the painting. So I felt it was like killing two stones.
Mm.
I was able to tell my story and talk about my paintings as well.
It's always very interesting to know the story behind the artist and the artist's work. Coincidentally, mixed media is also my favorite medium
Yes,
of expression.
I
I love it, texture, the color, anything can just turn out to be so amazing with texture.
really.
So you've published a book. You are
Uh-huh.
a professional artist.
Mhm.
You're also a culinary artist. You went to culinary school. My God, I think you've lived more in your lifetime than a lot of people. Tell me about the culinary course. I mean, what was it like moving around in the kitchen, which is set
Mhm.
up for able-bodied
Yeah.
people? Tell me about that.
Mhm. So that was one of my most bizarre ever things I've ever done in my life. It gave my mother nightmares till I finished my course. But I think cooking in general, being in an Indian family, being having a grandmother who always in the kitchen, always cooking up something every day for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and I grew up, being around her. Um, the interest of cooking came at that point, a very young age. But why I decided to study it is because right after I graduated school, I had a lot of time in hand. And while trying to figure out my art career, um, I got hooked on into watching cooking shows every evening without fail. No one was able to touch the remote control every day, because I would watch the cooking shows and I would cook whatever I've watched. And of course, my family would be my guinea pigs. And it's from there my sister brought up the idea for me to study, to do a short course. And very thankfully that we went to this Academy of Pastry Arts, who took me in, even though I didn't have all the credentials. But I remember meeting the founder, and he just turned around and asked me a very simple question. He turned around and said, "Do you like cooking?" I said, "Yes." He said, "That's all I need to know. I'll work it out for you." So it was a 3 months foundation program, which is actually equivalent to a diploma because it's completely hands-on. And I remember he had accommodated my own stove at my height, my own table, everything to
Wow.
my height. Yeah, absolutely everything was the whole kitchen to what I need, the pans, everything was at my height for me to do things independently.
Hmm. Amazing, amazing. So you're good at making pastries?
No, I'm more towards Italian cuisine. I
Oh,
love,
Italian cuisine. Okay,
yes.
I'm asking them with a purpose, Lavina, because at some point I have to taste the cooking. And I
Yeah.
haven't tasted your cooking. It's about time. Okay.
No, I know it's about time.
So what other activities are you involved in? You
Mm,
cook, you paint, you can write, what else do you
yeah.
do?
Well, I work in my mom's restaurant.
Yeah.
Not as I started off as a chef in her kitchen 2 years ago, but I realized that I couldn't take up the physical exhaustion.
It's
It
very
was very,
strenuous being a chef.
very strenuous because you need the food to come out at a certain time limit and in a certain standard. So putting my health at first, at priority, I decided to step down and just look after the front, PR work, talking to the customers, and the marketing part of it. So I've been doing that. Besides that, I've been doing a lot of writing lately on just on my Instagram. But yeah, for now, that's about it.
But you're also modeling. I saw some pictures
Yes,
of you. You do some modeling, right? And then
yes.
what else?
So modeling came in about 2 years ago when my friend himself started the first modeling agency for differently able, and I took it. I signed up for it because I felt like a picture is says more than words. So I realized when I started modeling or shooting for local brands under their agency, I felt like I was more exposed. People were more aware of the differently able community as well. So and it was also a learning process for me to look after myself in terms of my health, my fitness. It was something to look forward to, uh, and yeah, it's something fun basically. But it was also a learning process for the people who would see it and for me as well.
Right. That's interesting. You also do some motivation talks. You have done it here and there.
Yeah.
What was the feedback that you got from that? I mean, there's so much you have to tell. Your story is so powerful, so amazing. So, what have people? How have you inspired people? You know.
Usually, when I started off motivational speaking. It was usually for smaller groups that I felt I had more of a control of. I get to go up to them and more better engagement. So I think usually it's just seeing a girl on wheels itself, blows them out of their mind, because I'm going on stage and I'm gonna talk about my life, I'm gonna talk about my flaws, I'm gonna talk about my differences. That is usually the most difficult thing for anyone in this world to do. So I think for how I've done that over the years, I think that has allowed people to understand that it's not wrong to speak about your differences, to come out of your comfort zone and try something new. Because as much as you've listed out the things I've done over the years, it's not something I've planned. None of it, whether it's writing a book or painting, nothing is planned. But how it worked is because I grabbed every opportunity that came my way, whether I knew how to do it. I mean, writing a book was was a 360 degrees turn for me, because I had no idea, absolute no idea how to write a book. I blindsidedly walked into the program and said, okay, let's write a book and see how it goes, because at that point I realized that I got to make the best of everything. So when I give my talks, that is usually my message to everybody in my storytelling itself.
Great. Great. So, I mean, really, whatever you've been saying so far, it's just been so inspiring. You at your age, and being wheelchair bound from birth, you have achieved so much. You've just gone out there. You've not even known that you were in a comfort zone. You've not looked at boundaries that other people put for you or think you should adhere to. You've just stepped out of that. And I think that's a fantastic lesson for the rest of the world, differently abled or able-bodied or whatever, that the boundaries you have, sometimes people say the boundaries are only in your mind, but for you, the boundaries are also physical. And yet you've transcended those to really go out there and just live the life that you want to live without allowing anyone to tell you otherwise. Um, so in a sense, what are your other aspirations? You've accomplished so much. What are the other aspirations? I do understand you're going through some health challenges at the moment.
Yeah.
So what are your other aspirations once you've got past these health challenges?
Right. Right now, as soon as I get over the health challenge I'm facing right now, I would love to start traveling a lot more with my art. I would love to do more international exhibitions. and I would love to do more talks at different platforms. Like last year was my first time I went to Delhi, my first international platform to speak. So I want to do more of that because I realized that educating people, or at least creating awareness on teaching people how to accept themselves for who they are, I think that is what's lacking at the moment. Everybody's trying to fit into what other people want them to be, especially with social media pressure nowadays. You have to dress in a certain way, you have to speak in a certain way, and I mean, that is a very hard world to live in, especially in the world now. So for me, I just feel like I want to be able to go out there and tell people that they should use that time to reach out to who they are, to reach out to what they are most passionate about, reach out to what you know portrays themselves. So in any way I can, whether it's through cooking, whether it's through writing, I definitely want to go into acting, stage acting. Actually, I want to learn stage acting because I used to watch my sister do that when I was younger, and I just used to fall in love with the idea of someone going into a role, stepping into an absolute different role, and pursuing that. So I definitely want to learn that. Uh, Also, at the same time, trying to create awareness that we are able to do it. And yeah, just anything. And right now, it's literally anything I can get my hands on.
Wonderful. That's so inspiring. Avina, in a sense that there have been so many people who have probably had a great impact on your life, cheered you along the way. You spoke about your parents, your family. Who
Uh-huh.
are the people who've had the greatest impact on sort of helping you to shape yourself, because they didn't really shape you. You had this desire to shape yourself, but they were the cheerleaders along the way, you know. Do you have anybody, the people you know, people you read
Yeah,
about, who are
yeah.
your role models? Yeah.
It I've actually been asked this question even as an artist on who inspires me as an artist, but I somehow go back to the people I grew up with. I very, very rarely find inspiration through a book or through, yes, I probably do through speakers, definitely. I have a knack to watch all these motivational speakers, people like Muniba Mazari, who's been wheelchair bound. She's from Pakistan. She is the ambassador for uh, UNICEF Pakistan. She's a differently able as well. So I think it's just I try not to limit myself, to be honest, in what inspires me. But I think my foundation, which is my parents, which is my mentors like you, people who have taken their the time off to help me achieve my dreams, to bring out the best in me. And I think it's because I haven't limited myself is why I get to meet people like you, like Muniba Mazari, like Anthony Tanasayan, who's also he's actually one of the first differently able people in Malaysia that I came across um, at the age of 7. He also has spinal bifida, and he's the one that taught me that, you know, the world is up to how I want to handle it, basically. So it's just
Absolutely.
honestly anybody, everybody, anything at this
And
point.
and and you know, Avina, one of the people who would be have been most proud of you and the woman you become today would be Uncle Warren, my late husband. Yeah. He
Yes.
just looked at you and he saw this person of incredible spirit. And wherever he is now, I'm sure he'll be going, "Yay, Avina!" Right? And
Yeah.
I'm very proud of the way that the woman that you've become. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you so much.
Right. So, and final question: what words of wisdom do you have for your audience today, for people out there, people your age, able-bodied, differently able?
Well, I'm actually going to speak about I've currently observed in this year is that a lot of people around me have been trying to fit in to a particular circle, but to a particular trend,
Mm.
and coming from a harsh childhood, not not getting fit, not getting accepted easily as a differently able. I feel like the only reason I've been able to have done so much in my life is because I didn't chase those things. I didn't chase the next trend or the next popular group or talk in a certain way or behave in a certain way. I never chased those things because of my mom who took a lot of her time away from her ambition uh, to groom me, to teach me, to reach out to build the person that I am
Mm.
from my fashion sense, or it's whether it's to my liking of food, or whether it's what triggers me emotionally or not. I've taken that time and effort to work on myself. And that's why I've learned what I can and cannot do. So my message to everyone out there, no matter whatever age, able or differently able, take that time to build that person that you know you are. Take that time to create the world that you want to be in, basically. And that's when you will see that you are living the life to the fullest.
Which is what you're doing. You've created the world that you want. Um, and you've taken, all the opportunities and you've just stepped outside the boundaries. You've looked beyond. You didn't even realize your own limitations and you just went out there and did what you wanted. And I think,
Mm.
Aveena, that is such a powerful message for everyone there, because I know there are people listening who may have lost jobs, who may have had pay cuts, who, may not know where they're going with this pandemic. But I think
Yeah.
the lesson is whatever is there, you need to just embrace life. And look
Yeah,
at you.
make the best out of it. Yeah, at this point with like I spoke to you earlier, I've been very limited in my mobility, pretty much in bed for the last few months. And I literally have a lot of reasons to give up, to be honest with you. But at the same time, there's a very thin line. There's a, what do you call it? Silver lining, they say. I keep reminding myself every day through this pandemic that there's a silver lining towards it. There's something that I can look forward to, whether it's for getting up in the morning to have a good breakfast, or playing with my dogs, or looking forward to meet my grandfather. Something one way or another. There's always something to be grateful for.
And that's amazing. And that's so absolutely right. I wish you all the best in your, resolving your health issues, and you're such an inspiration. And I know you're not going to give up and you're just going to fight this
No.
next stage in your health journey. You're going to overcome it like the trooper you are. And you're probably going to go and climb another mountain, metaphorically speaking. I'm sure if you can find a way to really climb
Oh
a
yeah,
real mountain, you
I was
would. I
going to
know
say
you
that.
would. Yeah.
I was going to say that.
Yeah, I know, and I wish you all the best. I wish you and
Thank
your
you.
incredible parents, Krish and Rani, and your sister and brother, happy Deepavali. Celebrate with joy, and I'll talk to you after you've gone through your surgery and you've come back. Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much,
much.
Avina,
Thank
for
you
being
so
with
much.
me.
Happy
You've been
Deepavali to you and your
listening.
family too.
Thank you. You've been listening to Aveena Devi talking to Sheila Singham on the Sheila Exchange. Thank you for joining us this Friday, and happy Deepavali to all the listeners out there.